Hello everyone, it's Ginger here. Welcome back to another pastel painting video, and I have with me my smaller sketchbook. So this is the Royal Talons sketchbook. I think it actually says it anywhere. No, it doesn't say anywhere. And these are two quick painting sketches that I did with gouache, just so I can capture the light and the reference from Unsplash, and I wanted to see what the light looked like coming through the trees, but with a kind of higher toned colour palette, so something that was a bit more saturated and vibrant. And I thought, do you know what, I've got a couple of offcuts of Pastelmat, so this is the charcoal grey Pastelmat, that I thought, do you know what, let's use this up and just have a play, and we'll do this in pastel. So, as you can see off to the side, I've pulled out the pastels. These are the colours that you can see from this. You can see most of the colours here, and I thought, let's just have a play and see what we can do. So we're going to start with the sky. I'm not going to use any washes or anything. I'm just going to layer this down and rub it in, try to get as much of it into the grain as possible before layering over the top. Preferably try not to make too much of a mess. I like Pastelmat, but this, I don't know, I just don't always get on with it. And there's been a lot of defects recently. And I know if you report back to them and say that your Pastelmat has got a defect with pictures, they will replace it for you, but it's time, isn't it? It's time and money and stuff, which we don't always have. So this is an offcut from the pet portraits I've been doing. We're going to start with the sky. So, it's a small piece, but we've got all these pink tones I've put in the corner of the painting. So we're going to put pink in first, and then the kind of lighter peachy colour that seems to be everywhere. This is one of the Ohuhus. So it's not particularly pigmented when you compare it to the Rembrandt I've just put down, but it still does the job. It's just having a harder job getting it down. Now, I'm not fussed about how much of this I'm covering, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be putting the darker pastels over the top, which is fine. We want some of these yellows. So I've got a mixture. That's another Ohuhu. They just keep creeping around in my box. So there's the yellow. And we've got some more saturated yellow around the bottom and edge here, which is where the trees are. So I'm just going to blend that in so it softens that colour up. And round. And then cross. Don't worry, I'm putting more pastel down over the top. I just wanted to get a nice base layer down first. And yes, there's other things I could use other than my fingers, but I'm trying to keep this simple. I don't want to do this too complicated. I just want to keep this really simple. So I'm not putting this down yet, but it will be going down. So now I can build over the top of that. So now I'm just going to give myself some little banks of, not clouds, but just texture in the sky, so it's not all just a block of colour. Like that. Yeah, I know, I'm getting these everywhere, aren't I? Don't think I'm going to use the darker peach, so I'm probably going to get rid of that in a second. See how nice that then is when you've got ability just to kind of play with the colour a bit more. So now we can bring in the yellow back, and we just kind of blend that out with this peach colour. And we've already got the darker yellow down. What I want to do is a ring of this lighter colour around the sun is, which will make sense when you've put it all together, so don't worry. And then a little bit more of this, which will make more sense once the trees are in. But I need to get it in now, otherwise I'll lose it. Right, now that leaves me this spot in the middle. Well, we know what that's for, that's the sun. So we will now put our lightest colour in, like that. And then we will just swirl out with your finger, and it will just blend everything around it. And the pastel will follow your finger, and you can see the curved marks of the pastel. So That's these. So we know we've used those and we've used those two. So we can get rid of that one. Pop it there. Right. This one not 100% there. I think there's a little too much. But that's fine. There we go. Right, so we want to get some of these blues and greens down, our two darkest colours. The blue, mostly for the back tree line, the darker green, which is darker than this blue. I've picked a green specifically that's darker, so that it can do the frontmost bush tree thing before we work on the ground. So let's get our tree line in. So this is our dark blue. See how high up I want to go. It's a little bit gritty. This is one of my Snelliers. I don't like the fact they can be a little bit drier and grittier. That kind of annoys me sometimes. I'm just kind of laying it down and pushing it in to create this shape. And yes, I want it kind of heading towards the sun here before coming back down like that. And then up, and then following this tree shape here, but I want to make it slightly more round and bigger than what I've got. Yeah, I want it touching the top of the paper actually. Sometimes doing that gives you a sense of depth as well as distance. You know, by touching the top, it often suggests that there's more going on further than you can see. Right, and that's going to be the main tree there, right? Not much dust coming off of these because it's Pastelmat. Right, and then I'll say, how far down do we want this tree line? There? We'll say there for the tree line, right? Wonky as usual because I can't do anything in a straight line. So that's our dark blue, which is there. I'm going to use our dark green and map in this, and you'll see the difference as soon as I put this down. See? This green is so much darker than this blue. I will be adding some of the blue to this, so I'm not really fussed about what it kind of looks like. I just want to give it something of a shape. Now we can add some of the blue in the middle of this, just because it has some shape and depth to it. And we want to keep that blue tone running through everything, like that. Right, so you can see darker bush closer, lighter bushes and trees distant, blocking the sunlight. Now we've just got this meadow. I'm throwing pastels everywhere. I'm not trying to keep them together so you guys can see. I am trying, honestly. I don't think I just put things down and then, as you might have seen some of my other videos, spending a time going, where is it? Where is it? What have I done with it? Right, I'm going to put some of the dark green at the bottom. So my usual tactic of trying to frame the painting, frame the image, and also it encourages the user's eye to travel up the painting, is by putting this dark border at the bottom and bringing it in at the edges. And that framing forms a nice V shape, going that way. Right, so there's the green. And then we'll add some of the darkest blue. Blend that into the green, and we'll just keep taking this up. We'll make it lighter as we go up, though we're not going to push as hard. See, we're not pushing as hard, so you can see the paper's not taking as much of the pastel. It is giving us a lighter colour. See, there is a shadow around. Shadow around this, so I'm going to put a little bit more down around this bush, just to indicate there's a shadow, because the sun is obviously this side pointing at us, so there will be a shadow. There will be a shadow for this, but it's so far in the distance that you won't see the shadow because it's not close enough to you, if that makes sense. Little bit of dust. Right, how are we doing? Well, we've got a lot of colour down. We've not really done much in the way of blending. We only did some blending in the sky, and that's because it being a lighter colour on top of this dark surface of the dark grey of the Pastelmat, I needed to blend a colour down to really get it into the grain before I could apply the lighter colour again over the top. And sometimes when you're working with a darker pastel mat and using light colours, you do need to do that to build up enough light layer to be able for the dark colour of your surface not to show through. Because at the end of the day, pastels are not opaque, they are transparent. Right, what do I want to do? Do I want to work on the tree or do I want to work on the ground? We'll work on the tree because that's kind of important. So immediately around this light, and I will be putting flecks of this back in, but I need to put the rest of the green yellows in first. So I want my lightest green, which is this one, to go around the edges of this tree and just show where it's catching the light. And it's blending with the blue, but that is what I want. What you want it to do is to blend so it looks like the sunlight's coming through the leaves of the trees and the bushes back here. Try to be careful around where the white of the sun is. Really kind of dig in just around the edges to give that colour. And I'm pulling in as well because that's what you want. There we go. If I blow the dust away, it makes more sense now. So hopefully you guys can see that. Just by adding that, suddenly you've got this kind of weird sense of depth going on. So you can see the sunlight's now changing the colour of the trees as it comes through. Now this is where I'm going to add my yellow back in. Not much, because it's such a strong, vibrant colour. I don't want it to take over. I do want it just to kind of touch some of the trees. I'm going to blend that in ever so slightly. I feel like I've got too much around here and I need to lighten where the sun is just a little bit. There, like that. So you can see now how that's really picked up the colours. I'm just dotting some of that colour in, right. And these are all over the place, which is classic me. Now that I've done that, that's a bit too much. Right, now I'm going to bring in the rest of the greens for this tree. So we've got our next darkest yellow green, which is this one. Remember, all this will blend with the blue that you've already got down, and that's what you want. Don't be afraid of it blending in here, just let it. You want to create texture in your trees. And remember that these back trees are the lighter ones anyway. Right, we're going darker again. At least I hope so. Yep, darker again. So this is our next dark green. And as we're working down, we're working to the bottom of the blue. But we're not working to the dark green. So just remember that. We're not heading to the dark green, we're heading into the blue. And this is where we just then bring the blue back and pull it back up from the bottom. And it will start remixing with the colours again. It will just make it more authentic. Just adding some little tree-like details there. Just felt I needed that. And just make sure that your strongest amount of blue is at the bottom. I've kind of lost some of the lighter colour here. I'm also getting it everywhere. I was trying not to smudge everything into the sky, but as usual, that never works. Mostly because I can put my fingers down on the paper but can't necessarily see exactly where I've put them because of my eyesight. Okay, that's kind of improved that. And then I can just come back in with this and just pick out the highlights on the end of the trees again. I felt like I lost them a wee bit. Oh, that's a bit better, isn't it? What do we think, guys? Yay. I also noticed that that's escaped from where it should be. Right, and that's the background tree I'm pretty happy with, so we're not going to mess with that one anymore. This one, yeah, I don't know. I could add some of the lighter greens in, but my worry is that we don't really want to lighten it too much. We know it's going to be lighter here and here, which is where it kind of gets caught by the rays of the sun, the final rays of the sun from there, but not by much. So I'm not really going to process too much into that. And I think actually that's probably best left as it is, because I quite like it. I do want to accent this though. I feel like this needs to come up a wee bit. Also make sure I've darkened the bottom. There we go. Right, now let's have some fun with our grass. So we've already got this base colour down, so we're just going to work on that. Am I on a wonk? Is that better? Am I straight now? Hard to tell. Right, yes. So let's see, I've got all these blues. Let's see, that is not going to really make much difference, that one, is it? Not really, no. Let's scrap that one. See, we don't need that one. Let's go straight to this one, which is quite it's a paler colour, but it's not as pale as some of the other ones we've got. So we can easily get this in, and it gives us this gorgeous, vibrant blue colour. I'm absolutely loving. I'm just scraping it in rows. So there's one row, comes down, and then we've got another one that comes just straight across. Bear in mind, we've got the shadow here. We're going to be putting into that, but then also you'll see we'll bring it back a wee bit with the dark blue again. And we're going to come up to where we've got this line here, which is where we go into the tree line. Right. It is more of a red toned blue than the green toned blue we've been using as our background colour, but actually that's looking quite good. I'm just using my finger to pull some of it down because that's the direction the grass is, although the grasses are pointing up, I'm pulling it down to kind of give the length. Look, you can hear it. That makes a cool noise, doesn't it? Musical Pastelmat. Who knew? Right, now, before I start working more blues in, I want to get my greens in, because my blues are going to be my lightest colour over the top, so I need to make sure that is last to go on. So we're going to stick with probably the mid green. That's slightly too light. Let's try this one. Well, they're both roughly the same, really. Are you two really the same? You're the same colour. There is a slight difference between those two, but not much, so we'll get rid of that one. I know I used it up there, but not much because they're the same anyway. So I like making just light, brief marks, touching and then dragging down, and that gives you the length. So you're looking for the areas where we haven't put this lighter blue on top. So here, along here, 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 and that's where we're going to be putting our green, which gives us our kind of, when you look at a field from a distance and you see the different grasses and stuff, they tend to bank into colours, but they also tend to do it in like wavy rows, which is quite cool, but at the same time is useful for when you're painting like this, because actually it's nice to be able to capture that. Right, here's that green. Same as what I did before. I'm just going to blend that in by pulling down. It won't do much because it's pastel mat, so once you put pastel and pastel mat, it is hard to blend with your fingers. And I don't really want to scrub. Right, so you can see that's kind of starting to come together. I've lost some of this down here, so I'm going to put some of this back in. I just want to maintain the darker sections at the bottom. And this is probably where I'm going to put this back in now for this hedge. Just make sure that we're keeping our shadow in there. So you can kind of see the difference now between them. So you can see the shadow and you can see the darker bit at the bottom. And now we're going to start getting a bit lighter. I think this is going to be too bright. See, if I put this here, see what I mean? We want to keep it light up here, avoid the shadow coming down. Actually, I think I'll get away with that. This bit is literally just about layering. We're just layering and layering and layering colours over each other, but also following the kind of bands of the grasses. And they overlap, so I'm overlapping the blue over the edges of the green, which is what you would see anyway. Like that. Yeah, I kind of like that colour actually, that's nice. Now I want to bring in this lighter yellowy green, just because it is catching some bits here and there, so I don't want too much, just little hints of it where the sunlight's kind of catching the field grasses as it dies down. Obviously bear in mind that's in shadow, so just remember where your shadows are. Like that. Don't put it over there, put it here. I will remember, I am trying. Right, and pull some of that down. I'm not pressing hard, I'm just flicking it with the edge of my finger. It just takes some of the dust off, there we go. Right, now, this is one of the Ohuhus, so this is more of a red blue, so it's almost a violet. But actually, I think, looking at the colour of that against this, it's going to be too much. Bear in mind how much we've got the yellow tones in this, whereas this one has got a little bit more of the yellow tone to it. So I think what we'll do is we'll get rid of that one, and we'll stick with this one. So this is going to be quite light, and I know it's going to be quite light. So I'm going to be applying this sparingly. And then blending, just so it takes some of it back. Oh, can hear the cat. She's not very happy with me. I shut her in the kitchen. So I'm barely touching the paper with this pastel just to get these little flecks. And what I'm getting from it is this gorgeous kind of slightly dotty pattern from the texture of the paper. I'm not liking this line here, it's bugging me. Every time I put pastel over it, it doesn't go away, which suggests that actually there's a defect there on that paper, which I wasn't aware of. That's annoying. Right, let me go back over with some of this green again. And just kind of settle that down a wee bit. It is literally about just consistently going back, forth, back, forth. And when you do that, you do start to get the subtleties that you get in grass with all the different textures. Put that back there. And we'll come back to our blue. Like that. That's our lightest there. Right, now there's also in my sketch, which is here, although you can see it anyway, but I've got these little flowers which aren't white, they're just a very, very, very light blue. So that's what we'll probably do. I'm going to come back in with this very briefly and just bring this dark back in. It annoys me when I lose the dark too much. I just want that back in. I also want to blend some of that dark into the base of the bush, so kind of you lose where it kind of starts and ends. Right, let's get on with the flowers, shall we? I'm just going to literally dot this like that, preferably without really thinking about it. I want that almost pure brightness. And because it's like the tip end of the end of a pastel, which is almost completely out now, it's not going to give you perfect round dots. Ooh, thank you. It's just going to give you these weird shapes and flecks. It's not always going to give you a nice clean colour. Sometimes it will just break like it did there. I want to do some lighter ones in the shadow there. And the thing is even pressing down hard isn't going to give me anything because it just crumbles. So it's like, yeah, that's not helpful. What do we think? That's enough? Don't want to do too many, do we? Yeah. Do you know what? We'll leave it at that. Right, so there is the pastels. What we'll do is we'll get the tape off and get a better look at it. This stuff is notorious for warping and burning, which is why I don't really often use Pastelmat, but we will do it anyway. And try and just get the tape off. There we go. There's one. Just a little bit of heat, it helps most of the time. Unstick. There we go. There's that one. Trying to keep my corners down so that I don't allow it to come up completely. Oh, that one's going to come off, isn't it? Oh, kind of. Here. You'll stay for me. Thank you. Last bit of tape. Turn you off. Stick you back down. There we go. Or should I take the corners off as well? Let's take the corners off as well. It'll probably warp slightly because it was already a bent piece anyway. Right, there you go, guys. What do you think? Cute little piece, really colourful, really vibrant. Hopefully you guys can make sense of that. Apart from where my fingers are, which are causing shadows. But there we go. Right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Why not have a go yourselves and let me know how you get on. Any comments or questions, please leave them below. Remember to give this video a like, as every like helps my channel. Ta-ta for now.